You're watching E.T.N. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. Now, in the past, there's a series I used to do here on the channel called Conspiracy Theories. It was strictly going over conspiracies, whether it had to do with government, UFO, and the like. One of the reasons that is because I always found conspiracy theories to be pretty entertaining, whether it was reading about them or watching videos about them. I felt it always helped me keep an open mind. Well, conspiracy theories are not the only area that interests me when it comes in terms of like fringe kind of topics. Those included paranormal activities, haunted places, UFOs, of course, which also integrate into conspiracies as well. Well, this time I want to continue doing those things, but I think what I'm going to do is wrap them all up into one category and just call it weird entertainment. The kinds of things you read at night, the kind of things that keep you up or kind of scare you, or maybe even make it hard for you to fall asleep. So for this video, I decided let's start off with some scary places. And I thought to myself, there's no better place to start than my own backyard, Massachusetts. So this video, I'm going to tell you about 5 places in Massachusetts that are the scariest places to visit. Number 5, the Hoosick Tunnel. Located in the northern Berkshires, this tunnel, which is still active today, took 21 years to build from the mid-1800s to the late 1800s, and it cost $23 million. Now, the tunnel runs from North Adams, Massachusetts to Florida, Massachusetts, and it's got the nickname the Bloody Pit. And one of the reasons it has this nickname is because of the amount of people who died during its construction. Now, many different accidents happened during the construction of this railroad. Explosions from black powder and nitroglycerin, people falling from extraordinary heights. All these incidents led to nearly 200 men's death during the construction of the railroad. Last number I saw was 196. However, the one incident that's talked about the most happened in October of 1867. The men in the tunnel were digging a shaft up to 1,028 feet when an explosion happened due to naphtha fuels that leaked out from a gas-lit candle. This explosion caused a hoist to snap and basically trapped 13 men in the tunnel. And what's worse, there was also a water pump that exploded and also dumped into the tunnel. So now you have these fumes, all this debris, and water trapping 13 men over 500, almost 600 feet into the tunnel depths. Now, it was thought initially that all these men died instantaneously. But later on, a couple of months later, after some investigation, they finally got to the bottom of the shaft, and they were amazed to find that the men there lived long enough to actually build and construct a raft to stay afloat, but later died of suffocation and asphyxiation. People who came much later on to investigate the tunnel have reported moaning, screaming, and in some rare cases, apparitions. Number 4, the Danvers State Hospital. Built in 1874, the Danvers State Hospital has gone under many names, including but not limited to the Lunatic Hospital and the Danvers Lunatic Asylum. Now, the interesting thing about the hospital is that it's believed that this is the birthplace of the first ever practice of lobotomizing a person, which is a procedure which severs the prefrontal cortex of the brain. The procedure was primarily used on the mentally ill during the late 1800s and early 1900s, but during the mid 40s and 50s, it hit its peak, and the procedure was actually used more on women than anything else. Now, the hospital itself has actually been demolished the past 12 years, but the tunnels actually still exist, and there's certain portions of the hospital that were left up for preservation. Now, because of the history of the hospital, it's actually been the inspiration for things like movies. For example, 2001 Session 9 is heavily based on the hospital. H.P. Lovecraft's The Thing on the Doorstep was inspired by a certain wing of the hospital. It also inspired the 1958 drama Home Before Dark. Now, the tunnels at this point are sealed, and even the employees who work there have no access to the tunnels. However, people who have worked there in the past and people who just seem to scurry by the hospital property have expressed a feeling of foreboding and despair when in the presence of the area where the hospital once stood. Number 3, the Hawthorne Hotel. Now, this hotel is one of the most famously haunted hotels across America and has very strong, or at least has been reported to have very strong paranormal activity. In particular, the entire 6th floor, room 325 and room 612 are the ones that seem to have the strongest activity going on in the hotel. The hotel is also part of the Historic Hotels of America, so if you want to get a room there, there is a chance, depending on when you want to book one, that you might have to be patient. It's well known for hosting people like Bill Clinton, Harry Houdini. It's actually filmed episodes of Bewitched, and as well as filmed the movie Joy starring Jennifer Lawrence. Now, it's worth noting that the hotel management, they're really not open about promoting the fact that the hotel's haunted, considering the kind of guests they've had, considering their status. It's something they generally like to keep on a hush and often deny. Other than the hauntings, people have reported smelling the scent of apples. And this is interesting because once alleged witch from the Salem witch trials, Bridget Bishop, who was later executed, she was actually the first witch executed during the Salem witch trials, actually grew an apple orchard on the very location where the hotel stands now. Pretty interesting. Number 2, the Metropolitan State Hospital. Closed in 1992 for cost cutting, and also the inspiration behind American Horror Story Asylum, this hospital unfortunately has a very, very tragic story to tell. In 1978, Melvin Wilson, who was a patient at the hospital with mental issues, murdered Anne Marie DeVee, who was a patient who actually committed herself due to schizophrenia. Believed initially to be a missing case, and the State Department of Health was actually looked upon very horribly by the public because of how they handled the case. During sessions at the hospital, Wilson was even seen with 7 teeth that belonged to Anne Marie DeVee, which was some sort of evidence that really never was pursued by the Department of Health. Unfortunately, it took until 1980 before they actually found the body parts of Anne Marie DeVee and were able to apprehend and arrest Melvin Wilson. And finally, at number 1, Liz Borden's house. The famous woman who hacked her mother-in-law and father, well, it's still a little bit shady. Some people are in question as to whether or not it actually happened. But she was actually acquitted of the murder, despite the fact that some of her story was very cloudy and some places just didn't add up. However, these days, the house actually runs as a bed and breakfast. And, well, if you want to stay there, be prepared, because unlike the Hawthorne Hotel, this hotel actually pushes the fact that a murder took place there, to the point where they actually hang the murder pictures strategically along the bed and breakfast. So you decide if you want to sleep there. And that wraps up this video, guys. Those are some of the 5 scariest places here in Massachusetts. So maybe if you come visit the state one day, maybe those are some places you might want to check out. And I definitely recommend Salem. I have been there. There are a lot of great things that happen there that tell the story of the witch trials and why they happened, and how these women were so unfairly treated and tried during those times. But that's it for this one. We'll see you next week with another. If you have anything you want me to cover, please mention it in the comments below. Until then, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page.